Today is the 75th anniversary of the Hoover Dam starting to work. Now, this is an example of a large federal government project that put people to work and it created energy. It's the kind of public works project that some call for today as a solution to the country's economic problems, which have persisted. So where have those big ideas gone? And would they even be possible today? As we gear up to hear President Obama's jobs plan this week, one that's expected to call for some public works, they are important questions to be asking, and host of Freedom Man Radio, Stefan Molyneux, is here to hopefully answer some of them. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you. So, as you hear calls in the U.S., as we've heard, for big projects such as the Hoover Dam that we saw, earlier in the 1900s, my question is, would this kind of a project even be possible today when you have to factor in all of the bureaucracy in the U.S. that now exists?
I think that these kinds of stimulus packages did not solve the problem of the Great Depression. I mean, you had massive amounts of government spending throughout the 1930s, increased regulation and control of business, which resulted in pretty much a 13-year-long depression that was only ended by the Second World War and the breaking up of those kinds of monopolies after the Second World War. Up here in Canada, we had almost no stimulus package, and we're already out of the recession. So I think what we're seeing here is a twofold factor. The first is that governments have no money to do these kinds of stimulus packages unless they're going to print their way into hyperinflation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the idea that governments will spend in times of recession and then save in times of economic growth is no longer feasible. Nobody really believes it. Governments just spend, and there's no money left for these kinds of projects. And so I think we're really going to see the end of this kind of paradigm. I think we'll see a lot of talk, but not much action with this kind of stuff.
Okay, I want to get to that, but you didn't exactly answer my question, because aside from the arguments that you're making about whether these kind of big projects actually solve economic problems, if, for example, the U.S. tried to build the Hoover Dam today, would it even be possible for that to happen in any kind of a timely manner that addresses the need now for jobs, the need now for stimulus, when you factor in the Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, OSHA? I mean, the list goes on of regulatory agencies that this would have to go through.
Well, there's no question it would take years to get through all of the various hurdles and hopscotches that these kinds of mega projects need to go through. You could do things like you could put monorails in, you could expand the existing rail system, you can always build and repair roads. But I think in America what is needed more than new projects is simply the repair of the existing infrastructure. A lot of it was thrown up after the Second World War with the baby boomers when their kids went to school, and it's really facing a lot of crumbling infrastructure in the U.S. And I think that's the kind of money that needs to be spent. But again, I just don't see where the government's, I mean, the government's got a huge amount of retirees heading into retirement who are going to be drawing on these public sector pensions, the Social Security problems, Medicare, Medicaid, wars overseas. Unless there's going to be some savage cuts elsewhere, I don't see where they're going to get the money for this kind of stuff.
Well, aside from where the money's going to come from, you're talking about repairing infrastructure, and that is something that President Obama is expected to announce as part of his jobs plan, which he's coming out with on Thursday night. So is this something that could help with the United States' unemployment problems?
There's no question that when government fires a big water cannon of money at unemployed people, they get picked up and thrown into jobs. But the problem is seeing the unseen costs of this kind of action. So you might get millions of people who get government jobs from this kind of spending, but that money is going to come from somewhere. It's going to come from the private sector. It's going to come out of other people who might be otherwise creating jobs. What America needs to do, in my very strong opinion, is cut regulations, cut oversight of small businesses, cut taxes, so that there can be a kind of economic growth. But at the moment, yeah, there'll be lots of people who'll be very happy and will vote for Obama if he's going to promise them jobs. But the unseen costs of this kind of stimulus spending can go on for years after years. We've seen this in Japan. 20 years of stimulus, and they're still in a recession.
And my question, too, is what do these kind of shovel-ready construction jobs for, in Obama's plan, it's believed it will be repairing roads, helping to build schools, those sorts of things. What do those jobs do for example, laid-off bureaucrats or laid-off financial professionals or people who work in IT that can't find work or college grads who can't find work?
Well, with the exception of the last two, I would think it would put them to some useful benefit. So rather than, I mean, I would rather have bureaucrats out there building schools than shuffling paperwork. That at least there's something tangible to show. They get a few calluses and look a little better, perhaps.
I don't know if it's that simple, though. We actually sent our producer out to talk to some construction workers next door. There's a church that's under repair. We asked them how easy it would be for a stockbroker to do his job. Here's what that worker said.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we definitely, it's just like anything else. I guess you have to have, I mean, I have 7 years of schooling in what I do. So I guess, you know, you start at the bottom and work your way up, just like anything else. So, yeah. But coming in, going from there to, yeah, it wouldn't be a smooth transition, but it could be done.
So it's not like you just, you know, walk out of corporate America and are qualified to go build a school. I mean, you just heard from a construction worker who said that he trained for 7 years or something. So it's not that easy to put just everyone to work doing these kind of jobs.
Well, but remember, in the U.S., of course, there's massive amounts of people who were involved in the housing boom, who have fantastic trade skills, who are currently lying idle. So I think that there's enough unemployment in that sector that you could, for the foreseeable future, no matter how much you spent, you'd still be able to drain off unemployment numbers from those people before you got to the sort of white-fingered, white-collared office workers who may not be that much use.
But what about all those folks?
Well, I mean, I was in the IT industry for many years. There are booms and there are busts, and you just kind of have to ride them out. You know, you should be like the government is supposed to be. You save your money when things are going well, and you use your savings when things are going badly. If those people blew all their money, then, you know, you have to learn your lesson. But I don't think there's any magic to put those people back to work. Perhaps they could be more entrepreneurial if the government can get out of the way of allowing people to start new businesses.
But with a lot of those industries, you're mentioning IT, another would be the financial industry, and people say that the United States was overbanked to begin with and that it was due for a correction. So some of these industries aren't coming back, Stefan.
No, I agree, and that's the natural cycle. I mean, there were lots of people working in the horse and buggy industry when cars came along. You just have to move, you have to retrain, you have to be nimble, and not expect that you're going to get that cradle-to-grave security that was around in the 50s and 60s.
So with all of those unemployed construction workers from the housing boom, and it's about 13.5% of that industry, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If they go to do these construction jobs and don't retrain for other industries, what happens when the road that they're building, that the government subsidized, is done?
Well, yes, this is the problem with stimulus is, you know, the idea behind a recession is that you've had a malinvestment. The money has gone to the wrong place. It's gone to build too many houses, which now nobody wants. And if you give stimulus to allow construction workers, I think you're quite right, to stay in that industry, all that happens is you're prolonging the amount of time that they're in there, and you're preventing them, in a sense, from going and developing other skills in other more necessary areas. So this is the problem. Stimulus spending simply continues the malinvestment that keeps recessions dragging onwards.
And Stefan, I really appreciate your insight, because there are just a lot of questions that come up. It's not as simple as, you know, building a road and solving unemployment, it doesn't seem. And just for a little context for our viewers, this bill is expected to be, the plan, Obama's plan, is expected to be $300 billion. Just for perspective, that's just 22% of defense spending across 2 years for the U.S., and it's more than the $415 billion that the U.S. paid on the interest on its national debt in 2010. So maybe those are some places where the U.S. could get the money. We're going to have to leave the conversation there, though, for today. I appreciate you being here. That was host of Freedom Maine Radio, Stefan Molyneux.